Hey guys, how's it going? Thought I'd shoot a quick update on my LS3 swap on my 1981 NASCAR edition turbo Trans Am. Here's the engine compartment. I got most of the wiring done. I'm about at 90%. I got to hook up the alternator activation wire. Few things I did. You can notice here that the belt's loose. I need to add another serpentine belt. I believe I need 78.5 inches and I'll be perfect. That one's 80.5 and it's about 2 inches too long. Getting to the motor, I got a 102 millimeter throttle body on it. I got 60 pound an hour fuel injectors. I got an MSD solid state relay box. This thing is going to control my 2 electric fans for my cooling system. It's going to activate with the fuel pump, and it's also going to activate the power for the ignition system, which I'm going to run through the relay because I need a clean power going to the ignition system. You don't want to run it off another accessory that's dirty, like your radio or your ignition coils themselves, because it's dirty electricity. Anyways, getting to the radiator, I got like a solid aluminum 5-core race rad. It's pretty heavy duty. There's the 2 cooling fans in there. I got it partially wired up. The grounds are done. I just got to run those 2 leads there, which are both powers, to the relay I was just showing you guys. That bracket there is just a bracket that was part of this air intake system. It's not necessarily for this car, but everything's been customized and modified to fit. So that's where I stand right now. I'll probably end up cutting that off if I don't need that bracket for any reason. Anyways, coming down over here, you can see the headers. I got plenty of clearance. I got a couple of plugs there. That's actually the O2 sensor wideband wire that I got to bring down to the exhaust system. The bung is already welded in. Those are like 9 or I think 10 millimeter ignition wires, really thick. No clearance issues here. The only thing that was touching was the steering column, and I just took the header off and I gave it a little ding right at that spot after I marked it, and there's no more clearance issues whatsoever on that side. Passenger side, we have no clearance issues whatsoever. There was nothing that I had to do other than mount these headers on here. Plenty of clearance from the air conditioning box on the side here. Can't really see. I'm gonna try to get the camera down there so you guys could see. I can't even see the exhaust system myself. It's kind of buried down there. There it is. I got about an inch clearance. So what's left under here is a couple of wires. One is for I believe it's the electronics for the computer to run the fuel injectors. That's the red wire. And that blue and white wire there, I believe, is for, not 100% sure, I can't remember, it may be for the tachometer. So that's about it under the hood. Underneath, I showed earlier on another video, is just a quick shot of the exhaust system. Looks really cool, very nicely done. Twin dual exhaust going down through an X pipe, 2 catalytic converters, and 2 Flowmaster stainless steel mufflers. Dual chamber. It's not going to be very loud, but it's going to have a nice tone to it. So the beast is almost done. Got the cooling system done too, forgot to mention that. Upper rad hose is from a 2009 Escalade EXD. I think they're all the same. Plugs right into the Trans Am 81 Trans Am style radiator. This is not an LS3 style rad. Another thing I have to do is my, of course, cooling reservoir has nowhere to go over here anymore because I got a big massive air filter and a 4-inch pipe going into the chamber where the cooling tank was sitting. So now I'm going to have to modify it and probably put it in front between the bumper and the radiator. There's plenty of room in there. It's just getting in there is the difficulty. I don't necessarily have to use the tank that it came with. I could probably get a smaller one and modify it to fit. Other things I need to do is the fuel lines and the fuel injection for the fuel injection system. There's the in or out, it doesn't matter. Now that my alternator bracket's over to the right and I got access to the other fuel rail, I'm gonna have an in and out system like Holly recommends. So I'll have a fuel pressure regulator on the exit side of the fuel going back to the tank. I'm running it with 8AN fittings and 3/8 fuel line going all the way to the back. It's going to hook up to the fuel tank. That's the last thing I have to do is pull the tank off and modify the fuel sending unit and have an electric fuel pump mounted in there. That should be a challenge. I think I could do it. So far, everything I've done is kind of panned out 90%, 99%. the way I like. The only issues I did have, I don't really like the way my lower radiator hose went in. It's got a couple of crimps in it. I mean, nothing serious. The coolant is going to flow. That coolant, that rat hose down there is actually from the 81 Turbo Trans Am. That used to be the upper rat hose. It just happened to have the right bend by the frame to go into the radiator, which you can't see obviously because I got this massive air intake tube here. Oh, there it is. You can kind of see it. It kind of curves around the frame, so it goes up pretty well the way you need it to, but it's still crimped a little bit. But, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's good enough for now. That's something I'm going to have to play with in the future. I just want to get this thing running and driving so I could enjoy it for a few months, and then I could tinker with it and tweak it as I go along. Interior is almost done. I still got to put the center console back in. Center console's out because I'm putting the computer inside in the center console, where actually the 80 and 81 Turbo Trans Am had computers, and the computers are just for the knock sensor to back the timing off. It's basically a microphone. It was the ear for the microphone to tell the distributor to back off the timing if it hears a knock. Anyway, so what's left over here is I got a light bulb sitting there. Of course, the shifter's been transformed into a 4-speed automatic with the cam, so it stops in the proper positions. I got the backup light, ShiftWorks backup light neutral safety switch mounted. Turns out that this car doesn't have a neutral safety switch, or I can't find it anyway. It was under that dash. For the life of me, I can't find it. I was bending over backwards trying to find it. I looked all over the place. There may be a harness wire that just comes right out of the fuse box with a loop in it off of a plug, and that's it. I'm gonna have to just cut that loop, and I gotta attach it to the green and the purple and the purple wires, and that will be my ignition. Yeah, these ones over here are for the backup lights. Works great. This bulb over here is for the display for the shifter. It's just hanging out now because I'm not done installing everything. There's all the harness wires for the Holly Terminator computer. It's pretty well all plug-in now, plug and play. I think there's a couple of wires that need to be addressed. There's a tachometer wire here. There's also a wire for the transmission for the torque converter lockout switch. So when I hit the brakes, the torque converter knows that, hey, I'm hitting the brakes, disconnect, so you don't feel like you're still in drive and you're trying to stop, like in a standard car, trying to stop without putting on the clutch. You'll end up stalling it when you stop. Anyways, so yeah, that's what I believe that's the gray wire there, and then there's a black wire, which is just a basic ground, and the red and white wire is an ignition source for the transmission. And that's about it. Once I got those wires hooked up and get the fuel system in there, I could button her up, put the console back in, and I will be taking this thing for a spin and shooting a video with me taking it for a spin. And actually, I'll be shooting a video of me starting this thing up for the first time and programming the Holly Terminator when it comes to it, which will probably be in another week or so. I still got a lot of work to do getting the gas tank out. So thanks for watching this video. Thought I'd give you guys all an update on a few of the things going on here. Check out my other videos on the car. I had a dual exhaust system put on. Excellent, beautiful job. Twin converters, 2 Flowmaster. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video. The guy that did the work, his name is Alex. The guy used to work for NASA as a welder for the space shuttle. He's done an incredible job on the exhaust system. And speaking of exhaust systems, I think I'm going to jack the car up and see if I could screw the O2 sensor into the bung that he welded on for me. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you like it, give me the thumbs up. Subscribe if you like. If you don't, no big deal. Have a great one. Thanks a lot, and keep yourself safe.